right. Let me shut this off. There you go. Hello, Twitch. Welcome to our little movie show. We are the Nosebleed AV Club. I am Matt. That guy right there.
My name's Austin.
Is Austin. And today, or tonight, I should say, we are going to be discussing 1958's war movie Dunkirk, starring John Mills as Corporal Tubby Binns and Richard Attenborough as John Holden. Yeah, so turns out there's another movie called Dunkirk, and it came out in 1958.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for what the bit was there. I was like, I've never heard of this movie.
Yeah, that was the gag.
I was like, oh god, did I watch the wrong movie?
You did. Oh, you watched the when did this come out? 2017 version. Oh yeah, I
watched 1917.
Hello, Color Aging. What is up? It has been a while. I hope your Overwatch games have been going great, because ours actually we haven't played in a while.
We haven't played.
So, we're doing a movie show today. We're discussing Dunkirk, by a little known director, Christopher Nolan. I don't know. I don't know if you guys know.
Never heard of him.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that. I don't know what that is.
So, I mean, where do we begin? I mean, what a movie. I wish I saw it in theaters, because watching it at home, I feel like it didn't really do it justice whatsoever.
It's kind of funny because when we saw this movie in theaters, it was right around the time, at least around in our area. It was one of the first movies we saw at like the Studio Movie Grill, which it's a movie theater here that you can eat at. You order dinner and stuff, or food from a menu, and they bring you it, and you bring you beer and stuff like that. Which we didn't have a lot of those movie theaters at the time when this movie came out. Mm-hmm. So that was like the first movie we saw, one of the first movies we saw at that theater. And it's kind of funny because, this movie's whole thing is building tension. And like Christopher Nolan's very particular about how people watch his movies and see his movies and experience his movies. And the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm supposed to be tense. And like, I was tense, but meanwhile, I'm stuffing my face full of like mini pretzels and fucking chicken tenders.
In your recliner seat.
In my recliner heated seat, like the whole thing was
just super comfortable. Just super comfortable.
Absolutely not how Christopher Nolan had intended for me to watch this movie the first time around. But given all that, it was very, this movie had me the whole way through. There wasn't a single point in the movie where I had lost interest, which, I like my fair share of war movies. I like, Band of Brothers, the series, like I'm not a stranger to the war movie genre, but I wouldn't say it's anything that necessarily I gravitate towards right away. Whereas this movie, right from the teaser trailer, got me. Do you remember it?
Yeah, the teaser was sick because it literally gave you no information. It just gave you that scene where the planes fly over, right? Like they get bombed, I think.
You don't even see it.
You just hear them approaching, right?
Yeah, you're watching the people on the bridge waiting, and then it starts with one guy looking up towards the sky.
Yeah.
As the noise gets louder and louder, and then slowly everybody else starts to realize what happens, and then they all start to duck and cover.
Yeah, and then boom,
and that's
the title.
all it shows you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I don't know what movie I was in for when I saw the trailer, but yeah, I remember seeing that trailer and be like, "What the fuck was that? That looks awesome." And then I think it mentions Christopher Nolan in the trailer, obviously, right? Like,
yeah.
So I was like, "Oh shit, okay, like this is probably going to be pretty sick."
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it was one of the most convincing teasers I'd ever seen. Mm-hmm. Because I'm a person where if you can get the message across and make me want to watch your movie off of the most simplistic and low effort, not low effort, but the most simplistic stuff ever, or like something that's very simple, like you execute a very simple idea super well, like I'm in. Like,
Yeah.
totally unrelated, but like the Joker movie did that for me too.
Oh,
where
yeah.
the
Great
very
teaser.
first teaser that we saw of it was very simple. It was a very, there wasn't a lot to it, but it was executed in such a smart and super well done way that it instantly grabs you, even though it doesn't do a lot.
Right.
And so I think Dunkirk really does a lot of that too.
All right. Before we dive in deeper, yes, Color Aging, I do remember you, and I hope you remember some of the sexual Overwatch names we came up with. Remember that night? That was a good night.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so it's interesting. So the first thing I wanted to talk about with this movie was actually I was in my research after I watched the movie. I stumbled upon a video essay on Dunkirk, and this guy actually had a take where he's like, Dunkirk is not a war movie. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I would agree with that, because a lot of war movies, they're all very similar in that they cover the war. You go from one battle to the next. You kind of see like the soldier's journey. You kind of grow with the soldiers and like get to know them.
Yeah.
Whereas this movie does none of that, and it's really focusing more on not the actual war itself, but an event that happened during the war.
Yeah, and when I heard that, initially I didn't really think, like, after I finished the movie, I wasn't like, oh yeah, that wasn't a war movie. But upon hearing that, I was like, oh yeah, you know what? That's right. That makes a lot of sense. I don't really think it's a war movie. It's a survival movie at the end of the more like, and that video essay went on to say that, like, oh yeah, war movies usually give you some sort of commentary on war and whatnot, and this doesn't really do that. And I was like, yeah, I could kind of see that. This was kind of just like shit was happening, because if you think about it, none of those guys really did anything aside from Tom Hardy's character and his partner. No one really did anything that heroic. Everyone was just kind of trying to like get to safety. You know what? No one really did anything.
I was talking about this with Janice, but like the main character that you first see is kind of like shitty in a lot of ways.
Shitty. So so that opening, or like part of that opening scene, right, where he's trying for the life of him to take a shit.
Yeah, he never ends up taking that shit, by the way.
No, okay, so I was looking into that, and apparently someone like got a hold, or I don't know how true this is, right? But they had like a transcript of this script, and it said character finishes and then sees the dude peeling the clothes off the dead soldier.
Yeah.
So I personally don't really think he did, because if I didn't see it, it didn't happen.
The way the scene's shot, it looks like he's about to do it. He looks over, sees the guy burying him, and then he pulls up his pants and he doesn't do it. It doesn't. It never once. Even the amount of time that passes, like it's such a quick scene where he looks over, sees him, and then pulls his pants up. That I don't think he took the shit either.
I don't think he took the shit either.
I think it was in the script maybe, and maybe they did shoot it. But I think in the editing, in order to hold that tension, I think Christopher Nolan's like, okay, go.
Hold that tension.
We need to keep this moving, because the whole movie is like a nonstop ride. And kind of going to what you were saying about like, is this a war movie? Whereas you were saying it was like a what did you call it? Like
a survival movie.
Like a survival movie, like along those lines. Like I would definitely categorize this movie as a thriller.
Yeah.
And even like honestly, you could even make the argument that it honestly has like some horror elements, and like not in terms of like typical horror, like scary monsters or like scary like creep me atmosphere, but like horror as in like this is a horrible situation to be in. This is like real life horror, like this is an actual real life horrific thing that people had to go through, and it's very much that along the same lines of like that constant feeling of dread that a lot of the newer horror movies are starting to kind of do, like movies like The Lighthouse and The Vivitch and like Midsummer. Like all of these movies aren't typically scary movies in the traditional sense of a scary movie, but they hold on to like this sense of dread and uncomfortableness, and you're always on the edge of your seat because you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen next. And I feel like this movie does that a lot.
Yeah, this movie, to me, it found a way, just, you know, going off that dread point, it found a way to always up the ante without being over the top. Like when they eventually got onto the ship, right? And then they get hit by the torpedo, and you're like, oh, fuck. And then further down along the movie, they're in the ship and they're getting shot at, and they don't know, you know, if people know they're in there or not. And then it turns out they somehow got out to sea, and now the ship's gonna blow. But hey, there's oil all over the place, so now you're gonna get on fire. Like, I know I'm jumping into a lot of like different points of the movie, but it's just funny that it's like they never really caught a break until the end. It always just got progressively worse.
The series of unfortunate events that happen in this movie, one after the other, is fucking horrifying in and of itself. And like, even though this movie is a typical war movie in that it has a lot of like, it doesn't have a lot of action and whatever, and you really don't see a lot of on-screen deaths. There's not even any blood in the movie. But this movie features some of the more horrific like allusions to death and like scenes I've seen in like a lot of other war movies, because you're just kind of, you don't ever really see the death, but you're kind of left to like feel and like think about like how it would be to go out that way. Like, for example, we don't see it, but we hear a guy get crushed to death by a boat in between a boat and a pier dock.
I remember
we see a wounded soldier who's already suffered the worst of this war. He's wounded, and he had to get carried on this janky-ass stretcher by these guys running just to get onto a boat to escape. And he gets left on a boat that gets torpedoed or gets shot by an airplane and sinks. So he's drowning. People get caught inside of get locked inside of a ship as it's sinking, and they all fucking drown.
Yeah.
Like, a guy is swimming underwater as there's an oil spill above him, and it gets lit on fire, and he swims up and burns to death. Like, a dude busts his head open after rolling down the stairs and hits his head on a metal pipe. Like, there's so many, like, terrible ways to go out in this movie.
Actually, like, yeah, I was going to point out one death in particular that you actually do kind of see that I felt like, okay, that was actually pretty, like, horrifying and gruesome, and I could feel that. But I actually forgot about the guy who gets burned when coming up for air. So that's okay. That's probably the most horrific one. But the one I was going to talk about was the other kid, the guy who took the clothes off the dude when they left, when he was trying to exit the ship and he drowned. Like you said, you don't really see too many deaths, but the ones you do see are pretty gnarly. Like, just
Frenchie, man. Rest in peace, my yo, you know what's the shitty thing is like, out of all the people in the movie, Frenchie was like the only one that really did anything worthwhile. Like, he saved them twice.
And then they
twice.
Which, I guess, so back to that guy's point where he said it doesn't really make a commentary on war. I disagree with that point, because leading up to that point, when they're all in the ship and they're like taking target, they're being the victims of like the target practice. You basically see that in this setting, this nature of war, like, everyone just wants to survive, and that'll bring out the worst in people. Like, Harry Styles being like, "You fucking go up," like,
dude,
send him out to
Styles,
die.
Fucking asshole in this movie.
For real, didn't do shit but be an asshole.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
I was gonna say, shit, what was I gonna? It's not like, it doesn't hit you over the head with commentary like other movies do, but there are like other moments where the commentary gets kind of sprinkled in, like the dad, the old man that's driving the boat,
who is actually one of the only heroes in the movie.
Yeah, he talks about, like one of the guys that they save while they're heading to Dunkirk to save the rest of the soldiers. They like get into a confrontation.
It's actually this scene right here that was the screenshots that are appearing right now.
He doesn't want to go back to Dunkirk, and he argues with the guy, and he's like, like, a man, like, you're a weekend fisherman, a man your age, you shouldn't be out here. And he says, men my age are the ones that started this war. Why should we send our sons off to war to die?
Right.
And like it hits even more when you find out that his son was a pilot that ended up dying like a week into the war.
By the
So
way,
it's like
yeah, that the all most of the scenes on that boat were very gripping to me. Like when they pick up Cillian Murphy's character off the plane.
Scarecrow.
Yeah, and they eventually he gets into that confrontation with that kid, and then he shoves him and he gets all fucked up. And then you find out later on that his friend doesn't let him know that he died, and like that is like wow, like just the heroism on that fucking boat, and they weren't even soldiers, was like I actually am now just realizing that, and I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty fucking epic. Like, I mean, obviously he saw the kid at the end, so he knows he fucked up.
He knows what he did.
He knows
it's in the paper.
Dun-Goofed. Yeah. So but yeah, like just all that stuff was pretty cool to me. Like I liked how they did all that.
Well, it's funny. It's just like that. The scenes on the boat should easily be the least interesting, but I really feel like a lot of the most interesting parts of the movie happen on that boat.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because I guess if you think about it, that's what this story is, right? These people coming to save these soldiers who are trapped on this, in Dunkirk, right? Like, so I guess, you know what? Yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense that the heroes are on this ship, and it's actually very interesting. And then everything around it is just shit that's happening, and it's like, wow. Speaking of like shit just happening, were you okay with not really knowing anything about these characters and just kind of watching them go through the motions, or did you wish it kind of gave you a reason to care a little bit more?
No, absolutely not. I loved the way this movie decided to go about its characters, because like a lot of times with like, and I'm always going to compare it to other war movies, like it really wants you to care, right? Like it really wants you to feel like these guys, that you're another soldier in this group of soldiers, and that these are all your friends, these are your fellow brothers in arms and stuff like that. And that's fine, that works, but to me, like, I really think the way this movie tells the story, in which you never really get attached to one character, and you're kind of seeing 3 separate storylines all converge into one big storyline, I think it really highlights what this movie's about. It's about the event. It's about this moment in history that happened. And like, I think not focusing so much on characters not having any dialogue, I honestly think it serves the movie well, and really what separates it from the pack of other movies that this movie is going to be thrown into the loop with. Maybe not rightfully so, because obviously we both agree that it's not really a war movie.
Yeah.
Even though it's going to get compared to war movies. But I think if it's going to be compared to war movies, I think this movie does a good job of separating itself from the others.
So you actually brought up something interesting about like the dread, right? So you're saying like, horror movies nowadays, there's more substance to them now. They're not just slasher flicks. They're not just, jump scares. There's dread and other stuff like that involved. Could this be kind of like the beginnings of a subgenre within war movies, do you think? Because another movie you could probably compare this to is 1917, where it's not necessarily balls to the wall action, like, which is what I love about these movies. Actually, it just portrays war in a more realistic setting, because for those that don't know, our brother is in the Marines. But he often watched war videos and stuff like that, and he says like, you know what, a lot of the times it's downtime. Like, it's not always like explosions. Like, you're literally just sitting there sometimes, just shooting, just returning fire, just to be, you know what I mean? Like, so the fact that these movies kind of just show the mundane and just like, it's cool to me. Do you think like this is going to be like another type of war movie that people are going to like start making?
I do think so, and I really hope so, because I love that war movies, or movies that have to do with the war, the World War setting, are becoming more creative and like doing more like artsier things. Like 3 of my favorite movies of the last, more recent years, 2 of them from last year, have been World War movies that I think have all unique takes and different styles of portraying, this historical moment. So like obviously the one we're talking about, Dunkirk, which
Right.
utilizes, classic Christopher Nolan. Like, it utilizes non-linear storytelling. We have 1917 that utilizes a single take shot film technique.
Yeah.
That also tells a story in a more slowly paced, format. And then Jojo Rabbit, which takes the war movie takes the World War setting and flips it on its head by introducing comedy and
Yep.
fantastical elements, and like totally subverts your expectations. And that movie is freaking wild, and they all revolve around, 1917 is obviously the First World War, but they all revolve around this setting that we
Yeah.
all thought we knew so well already, and managed to make it new and interesting again.
So I will say this about Jojo Rabbit. I don't think you look at that movie though and assume war movie like you do Dunkirk and 1917. You kind of look at it and it's like, okay, it's set during this time, but it is a quirky comedy drama thing.
I will say this though, you can argue that Jojo Rabbit has more action scenes than both of those movies.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, maybe not. I mean, Dunkirk does have a decent amount of action when it gets to like the climax point.
Yeah.
But I mean, Jojo Rabbit, does have I think
The scenes are dope.
there's some pretty epic
Jojo Rabbit
battle
has
scenes.
some dope scenes.
Yeah.
What's up, Janice? So Janice is saying that I guess that in war you don't really have time to get to know the people around you too. Maybe the movie was trying to emulate that, and I do think that is a part of that. Because like I said, when it gets worse, it's like they meet all these new people as shit gets worse. Actually going into a more like stylistic point to the movie, when they do meet up with Harry Styles and they do eventually end up on that ship where there's just a bunch of people crowded in and they're all like eating, they're just like walking through, right? The way they shot it was from the perspective of the soldiers, right? Like it wasn't like a wide shot following them. It was like following their point of view, seeing all these people shoulder to shoulder. And then, this guy just realizing like, oh shit, we're fucked if something happens, right? He sees the door. And I think just to throw in Janice's point into the conversation, I do think that, could be that, and a lot of these guys were young. They were probably forced into this thing. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they joined and they were going to be like, they went through boot camp together and they were comrades and stuff like that. It's just like, oh shit, you're one of me too? Cool. I'm going to stick with you or some shit like that.
Well, it's crazy too in this movie is like, and maybe it was, I don't necessarily think it was exact this element. I mean, we'll get to it later, but a lot of the movie isn't necessarily accurate if we're thinking about it from a historical context. But this in particular, I don't think was necessarily accurate in that how passive they were about death.
Yeah.
On the beat, on the mole, right?
Yeah.
Because I understand that, being a soldier, especially during this time, during this war, in this situation, you're probably surrounded by a lot of death. But a lot of the times, a guy would just get the shit blown out of him right next to you, and then people just got up and got back in line. Like, nobody's like, fuck, I knew that guy. That was my homie. Or like, I just don't think that that's realistic. Like,
you don't think they were dehumanized that much?
We're still human beings at the end of the day, and even though death is a normal part of this specific situation that we're in, you're still like, you still feel that shit, Like, you're not. I don't think you're gonna become that numb to it, especially if you're kids, like you said, that were just kind of thrown into this situation out of necessity.
Yeah.
Speaking
of which, I was reading Reddit discussions on this movie, and one comment that stood out to me was, damn, Brits can queue.
Brits can what?
Queue, so like line up, basically.
Like line up?
Yeah. I was like, yeah, they sure can.
Well, so like, okay, so going back to what I was saying about the historical aspect of this movie, like that's one of the biggest criticisms that this movie gets is that it is actually not super historically accurate. And one of the biggest complaints that I see people talk about, our good friend Saul being one of them, was that the like Dunkirk, the beach, like that whole setting and scenario way too less people, not enough people. He's super empty, super like no like super neat like you said, like damn those Brits can queue, right?
Yeah,
like they're
they
all
can
lined up
fucking
very
queue.
like actual Dunkirk, if you look up pictures of the actual beach when this shit was happening, is a fucking mess. There's people everywhere, you know? It was all scattered. It was not as clean and like tidy as the movie makes it out to be.
Here's the thing, Soul. I'm talking to you. Christopher Nolan does not believe in that CG bullshit, all right? Those were cardboard cutouts. You can only have so many cardboard cutouts on the beach before they get blown away by the wind.
So this is where my like personal feelings go into, right? To what you're saying. While I agree that it's not historically accurate, and while I do think historical accuracy, especially when it comes to these kinds of movies, is really important, the filmmaker part of me, you know, the part of me that, you know, loves movies, loves film, wanted to be a filmmaker at one point in my life, is like, yo, I love how clean this scene looks. I love aesthetically how this looks. It's super
cinematography,
clean looking.
man.
There's not a lot of distractions. There's not too much noise going on in the background. Like, it is beautiful to look at. You get a lot of the good scenery. A lot of the colors pop. It's not some dreary. You don't just see a bunch of green or brown clogging up the screen because of all the soldiers on the screen. Like, you know, it pops. It looks beautiful. This movie looks gorgeous on Blu-ray. You know, like,
actually, something I really, really appreciate about this movie, and I don't know if I'm just misremembering the Christopher Nolan movies or if I'm just have Batman on the brain, but I was actually loved how like saturated everything looked, how blue the sky was. It was almost Wes Anderson like, just not with yellow but with blue, which is why I chose the blue lights for us. You know what I mean? It was just very vibrant, and it's something I feel like I never really seen in a Christopher Nolan movie. But then again, I could be like, misremembering things.
It's honestly something you don't see in any war movie. You know, that's what makes it so refreshing, is that it has like a color palette.
Because even 1917 was very dreary.
This is too blue.
That might be too blue.
Yeah. But, you know, like, and like every scene, like in terms of the three concurrent storylines happening here, you know, the mole, the air, and the sea.
Yeah.
Like, everything has like a color palette to it. It has a tone to it. Like, obviously on the mole, on the beach, you have like your tan and blue, like your very vibrant beach sunny day on the beach colors, you know. And then on the sea you get your deep blues, you know, you get your clear skies, and then in the sky obviously you get nothing but the sky, like, and it's all very distinct, you know, which I love.
Actually, it kind of just appeared on the slideshow right now, but I really loved the dog fighting scenes. The fact that they kick it off with Tom Hardy's plane fuel gauge not working, it's like, oh wow, really? Dude, you're just going straight into that, huh?
Fucking tense, bro.
Yeah, and the fact that he was like, I don't know, just him writing it in chalk, it was just like, oh fuck. And then like, you know, when his partner went down, and it cuts to that far shot, right? And he's just kind of like banging. And then Tom Hardy goes, oh, Ferrell.
Yeah, he sees the hand out the window. It's like, oh, he's good.
Like,
he's
all right. See you later, buddy. And then it cuts, you know, to the scene where it's him struggling to get out of the fucking plane. And I was like, oh, I love, because I was actually misdirected. You know what I mean? Because the plane didn't blow up, and he does that thing. I was like, oh, okay. I don't know what the fuck he's gonna do. And I'm not sure if they try to trick you. I don't know if that scene happens after you see Cillian Murphy on the shipwreck.
It's after. They
Is it
get
after?
him after they get Cillian, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So no, I know they get him after, but like this scene where he's struggling to get out.
Oh, that's before.
It's before, right?
Oh no, the scene where he's struggling to get out is after, because
it's after Cillian Murphy, right?
Yeah, because when you see him struggling, they rescue him at the last second. So, and at that point, Cillian's already on the boat.
but in order of the way the movie shows it, right? It shows
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, look, that's him. If I could be misremembering, so I was like, initially I thought it was Cillian Murphy, but then I remembered like, oh yeah, he had like blonde hair and stuff. So it kind of tricked me, but I love being tricked with the, oh, I'm actually fucking trapped.
Was it me, or did it feel like he wasn't really going for it though? You know,
I
like I feel like when
feel-
you see
yeah.
him punching the roof, it felt like he was baby dapping it.
I
like,
feel
it really
like-
didn't feel like he was cocking back hard enough to really get a good punch going.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, if I was in his shoe, well, first of all, do they not have guns? Like, just in case they need to land and, like, I don't know if a bullet would,
I don't
like,
know.
ricochet or something, but I figured
I
he
don't know.
would get, like, a blunt object at that point and just start trying to break that
Yeah.
shit, but what do I know?
I mean, so I will say this though. Going back to Cillian Murphy,
Mm-hmm.
are you confused about his series of events to him getting on the boat as I am? Because I'm super. My iPhone heard me say Cillian Murphy. I thought I said Siri. Because like, here's the thing, right? So like, we first see him, I think, when he's sitting
yes.
on the sunken boat,
Yeah.
and they rescue him, right?
Right.
So then the next time we see him, which gives us a hint as to what his series of events is after the main character, the three soldiers from the mole,
Escape the
Harry Styles-
sinking ship, right?
escape the
That's
sinking ship, and he's
Yeah.
on the boat, the
rescue
rafts, rescue rafts.
Yeah.
Right, and he's telling them, "No, you guys can't get on." Da da da. Da, right.
Right.
So that's when we see him, obviously before he gets rescued.
Correct.
By the boat people. So like my thing is like, okay, so he's rescuing people and taking them back to the island of back to the beach of Dunkirk, right? So initially I was like, rewatching the movie, I was like, okay, so he ends up on the boat that gets sunk again with the oil spilling out and everything, but no, because he at that point when that happens, he's already
Yeah.
been rescued. So I'm like, when did he get on another boat and when did it like sink? I'm like,
So
because like they even make it a point to like have the main character tell him, like, wait until you get shot, your boat gets shot by a torpedo, right? So you would think that they would at least show a little bit of where he ends up when he's in the middle of the ocean on the sunken ship, just sitting at the top. But they
yeah,
ever.
I wasn't too clear on that either. I guess, fucking shipwreck off camera, whatever.
off camera, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little weird. I mean, I personally kind of had a hard time following the three story, like where they eventually culminate to. Like it, I couldn't really initially figure out where these sequence of events were happening leading up to where it all converges. Did you have trouble
Yeah.
keeping up with it?
So when I first watched the movie, obviously, like most people, I had no idea that it was telling the story non-linear,
Yeah.
and like I was super lost. And then like the movie does do a good job of like throwing little hints here and there. Like you see scenes from like the pilot's perspective, right? Because Tom Hardy has the shortest like time span for his story. His story takes place within an hour, which I don't
Apparently,
think is doesn't seem like it because the sun sets pretty fast.
Yeah.
But,
I have another gripe with that, but go on.
But like, you know, obviously he sees the boat when all the soldiers are on the boat that gets shot up and it floats out to sea somewhere. He sees the other boat with the old man and his son and the boy on it as he's flying in the air. So there's like little things here and there where it shows like the timelines intersecting.
Yeah.
But I personally, like, once you figure that out, I think it's really cool. I think it's really interesting, and I really like it. You can pick points in the movie where it doesn't exactly make sense or line up per se, which I'm sure you're about to do. But, I mean, if you don't think about it too hard, I think it's fine. It works just fine. Christopher Nolan movies always kind of, at least from the ones that I've seen,
Yeah.
they always seem to have that thing where the movie's brilliant and it's genius and he does a good job of selling it to you. But if you really think about it, it's like, this doesn't fucking make any sense.
No, because I know before I even watched the movie, because you saw it before me, you told me that like yeah, it's three different timelines, and they all converge at one point. And as I was watching that, I had that in mind because it does tell you like, oh, 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour, right? But I don't know, for some reason I was having a hard time like tracing events when like I was watching another thing happening. But until like it actually started to come together at the end. But the Tom Hardy thing that really grinds my gears is when he's out of fuel, and he's just, I don't know, I'm no plane expert. But
I know what you're gonna say. I know exactly what you're gonna say. Go ahead.
He was on there for forever, and also like at that point, could he not just attempt a landing on the beach? Like, did he really just have to keep going until he eventually was gonna crash and get captured by Nazis? Like,
yeah, like he could have crashed earlier on the beach instead of landing so far away.
Exactly.
So here's my biggest gripe about that scene, right? Like all the things you said, but also this, right? So we see Tom Hardy run out of gas in the airplane.
Yes.
Right? And then at this moment, it cuts away to the beach.
Yeah.
And another Nazi airplane attack is about to happen. Right? But somehow, because they see Tom Hardy when he runs out of gas, right? He flies over them as he's already out of gas. And then it cuts to them hearing another Nazi plane coming towards them. So somehow, some way, with no gas, no engine running, Tom Hardy just floating is able to, as this Nazi airplane's coming from above to strike the beach again, he's able to glide upwards again and around to the back of the Nazi airplane shoot it.
Do they mention reserve fuel at all?
No, he does, but that was before this. At this point, he had already ran out of reserve fuel. So he's literally just gliding here, and somehow his plane just gliding manages to get the upper hand on a fully functional Nazi plane. And like shoot it down, and then all the soldiers cheer. It's great, yada yada yada. And then, like you said, Tom Hardy decides to fucking not land the plane anywhere near the soldiers, but instead goes another 50 miles down that way.
Yeah,
he actually lands in Germany, I think.
Probably, yeah. But it was just like it was all very cool up until that point. And it's like they played the whole thing up, right? Where it's like this guy's gonna run out of fuel, and then it's just like, okay, he got out of it. It's like, no, I'm just gonna stay here in this shitty situation and see where it takes me. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Like that was, I don't know, that was dumb. I didn't really like that.
Like I said, like if you really think about some of the moments that happen in this movie, they really don't make any fucking sense at all. But like because it's Christopher Nolan, because he's a wizard with the camera, like we let it go and it's cool. What did you think about like the whole non-linear storytelling style? Like, do you think it made the movie better, or do you think this movie could have been just as good, or if not better, if it was told in a more linear style?
It's kind of weird because I think overall I don't think this movie needed that twist or that gimmick. However, I do think there may be some scenes that kind of lose their emotional value if it was told linearly. So there's pros and cons to it.
Do you think this movie deserves because I think it won a Grammy Award for editing.
Sorry, you cut out. What was that?
Sorry, do you think this movie deserves the Grammy that it got? I think it got a Grammy for editing.
Or an Oscar?
Or an Oscar, sorry, not a Grammy. They're all meaningless. Award shows are meaningless.
It's hard for me to say because I don't really know what it was up against, to be honest. So I think that would play a huge role as to whether or not.
How do you just view the editing in general, right? Compared to what you've seen before, right? Not even what came out that year, just what you've seen before. Like, how does this movie stack up editing wise? Because for me personally, I think this movie is an editing like monument, like the testament to like editing. Because I think this is one of the best edited movies I've seen in a long time. Like, I think it really is an amazingly edited movie.
For me, I actually don't feel strongly one way or the other. I don't think it was terrible, but I also wasn't like super mind blown. But that may be because I had the whole concept spoiled, or the twist spoiled for me, to where it was like, okay, I know these are different times and they're eventually going to culminate. So I might feel differently if I didn't have that knowledge prior. If I just went into this movie blind and then just, had no assumptions, had no, okay, I know where this is going to, oh, I think I know where this is going. Like, so I honestly can't really say. So yeah, my answer would be like indifferent.
What about sound design? Because I
Oh,
think that's another thing that a lot of people praise this movie on.
so sound design is something I actually wanted to touch on, because I actually learned about it in just trying to just
Research the
digging
movie.
research the movie, and about the technique that is it Hans Zimmer? Did
Yeah.
he? Yeah, that he used, called shepherd's tone. Are you familiar with it? So what happens with shepherd's tone is, so they'll have like their scale of like notes they're going to hit, right? But they have it where it's layered 3 octaves. So there's a high pitch, a middle pitch, and a low pitch. So the way it works, so the way it creates like infinite suspense is that the high notes fade out eventually, and then the low notes fade in eventually, but that middle note is constant. So
Yeah.
you kind of get it. It's like an endless build up, and you think it's
Yeah.
like changing, but it's actually not. And I was like, holy shit, like that's fucking cool. Like I learned something.
No, that is super, like on a technical aspect that is really cool. On a more like
Yeah.
surface level aspect, even like I'll even say like the idea to incorporate a pocket watch TikTok, fucking genius, dude. It's so good. And like
I mean,
it
especially
seems like such a subtle thing, but to apparently Christopher Nolan instructed Hans Zimmer to like kind of craft the entire like sound around that.
yeah, I
Sound.
think I learned about that too. And yeah, I mean, the whole movie deals with, I mean, the underlying theme is kind of time, right? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, it makes sense that they made an effort to emphasize that. And yeah, I think with suspense movies or anything that's suspenseful, a pocket watch, oh, like that TikTok always adds to things. Like it gives you that fleeting feeling of like time running out, or your time's up, or some shit like that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was really cool. Yeah, the sound was great, except for like the uneven,
So
yeah,
fucking loud.
the
Oh
uneven
my
leveling.
God. So fucking and like which in normal movie, like in other Christopher Nolan movie, like in the Batman movies for example, it's fucking the most annoying thing ever. Like
Yeah.
I hate it. Like I hate that I can't fucking hear Michael Caine at all when he's speaking, but then when he punches somebody, it's like it's busting through my. It's like I'm getting punched.
Yeah.
You know. But in this movie, I feel like because there's no dialogue really, there's barely any dialogue. Like I think it works so well. Like I think the fact that Christopher Nolan doesn't mix his movies amazingly works to his advantage in this movie.
It might work in the theater. It did not work for me at home when I constantly have to raise and lower the volume as I'm watching this movie. It really like I don't want to have to work to understand this movie. Like
I fucking feel so bad for my downstairs neighbor because, like, obviously every movie's different with the movie. Like, we've been watching a lot of this Harry Potter movies, and I've
Yeah.
noticed that the volume I have for those movies are around like 35 or so. And then, like, with our sound bar and subwoofer, right?
yeah.
And then obviously we're doing this, so I had to squeeze Dunkirk in between those movies. And I was like, okay, like around 35, 40 maybe, sure. And at the beginning of the movie, because it's fucking quiet, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I can't hear shit. So 40 it is. Oh, maybe 45. Okay. Whatever, right? And then you hear that fucking first barrage of gunshots, and you're like, oh my God, it's so fucking loud. And the whole fucking apartment shook, and our downstairs neighbor is this really old guy that it's like every time I see him, he's just sleeping on his couch.
Probably
So-
fucking lived the war and you're giving it
Probably, yeah.
PTSD.
Probably killed him, to be honest. He's probably dead. Because I honestly go downstairs and I'll see him sleeping on his couch in the morning because he doesn't close his fucking window blinds. And I come home from work and I see him on his couch as I'm heading into our place and he's still sleeping. I'm like, he might just be dead and no one would ever know,
Damn. Uh, So I mean, another thing about this movie, about Dread, right? And another stylistic choice that they did was not showing the Nazis at all.
So good.
That
So
I
good.
personally love that. It kind of brings you back to like Jaws and Jurassic Park before you see the T-Rex and
Exactly,
and
dude.
Cloverfield, right? Where you're
Cloverfield,
like,
Alien,
yeah,
like The Thing, right? All these classic horror movies. Well, I don't know if anybody like people consider Cloverfield a classic. I know me and you personally do, but I don't know if other people
yeah.
are as cultured as us. But um, like
By the
yeah.
way, future spoiler, we're probably gonna do an episode on Cloverfield.
Oh fuck yeah. um, but yeah, classic.
Yeah.
Technique for movies
Yes.
is the less you show of the thing that is like the overbearing like threat in the movie.
Yeah.
The like overarching threat of the
The
movie, the better because it builds so much tension.
it
Things don't.
adds to the fear of the unknown, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah, because your imagination is always going to be worse than what they can actually ever show you. Like at the end of the day, like, oh shit, we're good. But, yeah, like, like I know you haven't seen them, but like in the Conjuring movies, right? Like everyone, even if you haven't seen the movies, you've probably at least seen the nun character from the Conjuring movies.
I think so. Yeah.
Super creepy looking, right? And in The Conjuring 2, you don't really see her all that much, but then they make a whole entire movie about this character and you see her nonstop to the point where she is no longer scary.
Yeah.
She's no longer intimidating. Like I no longer feel like anything when I see her because she just becomes another monster at this point. She
Right.
becomes no different to me than like say a Frankenstein's monster or the Mummy or whatever, all these classic monsters that we've seen a million times, so they're not really scary anymore.
Yeah.
You know? So like, yeah, not showing the Nazis, even though we all know what a fucking Nazi looks like, it still works really well. And like, you
Like-
don't know where anybody is, you don't know what they're doing, where it's happening. It's great.
Like speaking of like just the horror, right? What is the part of the movie or one of the shitty things that happens is the one that made you like the most tense?
Dude, the fucking when they're on the boat and they go inside to have some nice, like, imagine
Yeah.
feeling like you've done it, right? You made it. You're on this boat now. You got some nice ladies offering you some toast and jam. It's British toast and jam, so it's probably shit. But
Whoa,
you
hot
know,
take.
no, I think a lot of people agree that the UK food in the UK is kind of shitty, at least by American standards. But so you're out here munching on your tea and biscuits, right, and shit like
Right.
that, and you're having a ball. Everyone's fucking in good spirits. These ladies don't know what the fuck's about to happen. They're just handing out food. We're all good and happy. The only guy that fucking sees it coming is Frenchie. He dipped out on the front, out on the side, and then boom, U-boat gets torpedoed. Shit explodes everywhere. Water starts filling up the room with super fucking claustrophobic. No room to move whatsoever. The ship's not only is that happening, but it's tilting, bro. Oh, it's the fucking worst. And especially the scene where the door is like locked shut and you see
Yeah.
them like they can't get out, and then it just dude, it's the worst. Like that scene gives me so much fucking anxiety to the point where there are points when I've seen this movie like 4 or 5 times now.
Yeah.
Because I love it so much. I rewatch it all the time. Like that scene still like gives me so much anxiety, because to me that's what anxiety feels like, is just drowning, in pitch black,
So
and like it's crazy.
that's probably a close second. The one to me is when they were chilling on the boat waiting for the ocean to take them away, and then they end up getting shot at. The target practice scene. That scene was like, fuck. Like, in that situation, because, like, okay, you don't know if they actually know you're there, for one. You don't know how many of them they are. You don't know where you are. You just know that, oh shit, they're shooting at me, and then now the boat is filling with water. So it's like, okay, do I die drowning or do I die
Bro,
getting shot?
how
And
fucking
then,
idiotic is it though? Go ahead, sorry.
oh no, sorry. And then like, hey, plug the holes with your hand.
Bro.
Fuck. No.
No, but like, why? Like, it's already filled because at that point in the movie where they're like, okay, we need to plug these holes.
Yeah.
There's already a lot of holes in the fucking boat.
Yeah, they're fucked.
So and at that point they had already figured out that they were in there because they were repeatedly shooting at them at that point. Why go anywhere near those holes to try to plug them up when you know it's not going to work? That's not how boats work. Even if you put your hand over that hole, there's still enough space in between your hand and that hole where the water is still going to seep through. So to me, like as tense and as scary as that scene is, the kind of like the stupidity of it kind of is what kills it for me. But I also understand that in that situation, you're freaking out. This is your last ditch effort. Like, I understand. Like, you're probably not in your most right state of mind. So, yeah, that might be, like, the decision you make. But, like, from an audience standpoint, like, it just seems so stupid. Especially when they have that first guy. They're like, hey, go check or whatever. And he gets fucking wrecked. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just... Nah.
But I don't know, that one, because when you're on that scene that you described, I figure you're fucked. You know what I mean? There's nothing you can do. You basically have to accept, yeah, you're most likely going to die, right? Because you're locked in there. The ship's going to blow up or what have you. Not a whole lot you can do. In that situation, you're kind of presented with options, but they're both really fucking shitty. So, and then it's like, okay, well, let me try to plug these holes, which you're right, doesn't make any fucking sense. But at the same time, I can see just the panic and like, at that point, it's fight or flight, right? Survival, like, do what you gotta do to give yourself a hope that she might survive. And I don't know, that was stressing me the fuck out. And then, you know, but also to gripe on that scene a bit, that ship was beached, right? Initially, when they got on it. Right, and they were just on it, hoping that the waves would eventually take them in.
Because they knew the tide was coming in.
Right. So, at what point did they come across a German ship, and they were like, boom, boom, like, we're gonna shoot at this boat? Or were they still on the beach when they were shooting? Like, that was lost on me as to where they were were.
So they were on the beach when that happened.
Okay.
For sure. And then, from my understanding, is they start out on the beach, right? And as the water starts to take the boat out to sea, they were probably just shooting it as it was floating away. You know, because it's
that makes sense.
When you have a gun, it's fun, right? Like, oh, now it's a moving target, cool, boom, boom. But then they hear the guy screaming in fucking pain because he got shot, and they're like, oh fuck, there's people in there. Well, we're not gonna check if it's one of our guys because it probably could have been. So it's like, fuck it. It must be the British. Boom, 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 boom. Light that bitch up, you know?
Yeah. So initially I was like, wait, what? How did they end up there? Because I figured they were still on the beach, but then like you see them like have to swim and shit, right? If I remember correctly, I'm a little fuzzy.
What I want to know is how the fuck the boat got that far out to sea with all the fucking holes in it. That doesn't
That's what I'm saying. Like, I was like imagining them stuck on the beach, but then the water started coming. It's just like, oh.
The way that boat was filling up with water, it doesn't make it maybe 50 feet, you know, from the beach. Like, I think that shit sinks right away.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, where's the buoyancy coming from?
That scene gave me the most anxiety, but it also, there was a lot you have to like fill in. Yeah. No pun intended about the holes and shit.
It's also like the way they tried to boot off Frenchie off the boat, like one body was going to make a difference.
Yeah.
But they do save it. Because I think it's either Harry Styles or one of the other guys is like, well, you better fucking hope it works because if it doesn't, you're next.
It was his friend, right? Who Harry Styles said that to.
Yeah, so it was Harry Styles saying it to the main character because the main character was sticking. No. He was sticking up for Frenchie.
Yeah. By the way, when Frenchie first got introduced, what vibes was he giving off? To you?
He was just
because obviously he was sketchy. But did you make any like? Did you try to figure out in your head like, oh, this guy is a spy or this guy is
Like, I thought he was a little
Allah.
weird, but my first time watching the movie, and again, it was probably because I was distracted by, like, mini pretzels dipped in queso and chicken fingers. But, as Christopher Nolan intended. But I honestly didn't notice a damn thing about Frenchie. And then until that very last part, you're
Really?
like, oh, he's fucking French.
Like, I didn't know he
honestly-
was French, but he was fucking weird.
No, but like nobody was really talking in the movie, so obviously I didn't really pick up on the fact that he didn't say shit.
Yeah, he was fucking
And
weird,
honestly,
dude.
I couldn't fucking tell who was who.
Yeah, he looked a
My
lot
first
like the
time
main
watching
character.
the movie, they all look alike. They
Yeah.
all have haircuts, and they're all white. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just nobody looked distinct enough to where I could accurately like take a movie like 1917, right? Like, I mean, there's only two people to really keep track of, but they look different enough to where you could tell who's who.
Yeah.
All these guys, even when they meet up with the larger group of people on the boat, I have no fucking idea who's talking. I honestly couldn't figure out which person was Harry Styles until like my third time watching the movie. And that might have a little bit to do with I had no idea what Harry Styles really looked like.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't. I had honestly the only one they
Zayn?
all looked the fucking same to me was Zayn, right?
Yeah,
Because he's
Zayn.
the fucking brown one.
Yeah.
So it's like, how am I supposed to fucking know which one's Harry Styles?
So I have a bit of a game I want to play with you regarding this movie.
Real quick, before we
Yes.
get into the game, I did want to ask your opinion on the constant switching between IMAX and then normal like film.
I actually didn't notice.
So
The only time, I honestly didn't really notice. You know when I noticed it was when I was fucking taking these screenshots and some of them had the bars and some didn't. I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah. So here's the thing that annoys me, right? Is like I really feel, and like it's Christopher Nolan, right? So it has to be purposeful, right? He's too good of a director for it to not be purposeful. But seemingly from me, plebeian, audience member, right?
Yeah.
Like watching the movie like a couple days ago, it really feels random to me, like when it's IMAX and when it's not IMAX. Because like the first 10 to 15 minutes of the movie is shot all in IMAX. So like when I was watching the movie again, I was like, oh, is it? I don't remember, but is it all filmed in IMAX? Like that'd be kind of cool. And then there's like a random scene when the admiral is talking to one of his underling dudes or whatever, and it's not in IMAX. And then because usually in these kinds of movies, right, you switch to IMAX when it's like a large like city or landscape shot or like an action scene, right? But a lot of the times the IMAX is used for when it's just like them just hanging out or chilling or whatever.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's not IMAX when there's still stuff happening on the screen. So like honestly, it really felt arbitrary to me. So I was kind of curious if you picked up on that too.
No, I actually didn't. The only time I've really picked up when a movie was switching between IMAX and just like regular format was fucking the Transformers movie with Mark Wahlberg. It was really shitty because it was so like it was like
I've never
such
seen it.
jump. It's a fucking awful movie. I had it on as background noise one time and I regret it because I noticed that shit immediately and it really just annoyed the fuck out of me. But with this movie, no, I didn't really notice, but I did read something about one of the IMAX cameras was actually mounted in the cockpit of the guy who was struggling, right? And then the plane sank faster than they thought. And the footage, the camera,
shit's heavy as fuck.
the camera was still in the plane, and all that footage got wet. But Christopher Nolan, like, he took that footage, right? He kept it wet until he can fly it out to wherever processing place was, and then they fixed it, and that's actually the scene, the shot that you see in the movie.
That's really cool.
Fun fact for you there. But
That's
yeah,
fucking crazy.
I actually didn't notice. apparently there's a lot of things I missed while watching this movie.
What if you ever watch the movie again, like relatively soon? Pay attention to what's IMAX and what's not. I really feel like it just I can't really figure out what the consistent factor is between it, because like it really does feel random at some points.
Unless like, because you're saying it wasn't IMAX when it was like a wide shot with a bunch of shit going on. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, there's some shots that were IMAX. I was like, I don't really think this needs to be IMAX. And there was other shots that weren't IMAX. I was like, this probably could have been IMAX. Like, it just doesn't. I don't know. I can't figure it out. Because like, you take a movie like the the other Christopher Nolan movie that comes to mind, right? Is like The Dark Knight, right?
Right.
Like there, you can figure out. You can easily tell which scenes in those are IMAX and which ones aren't, because like there's scenes that really do call for IMAX, right? Like the beginning shot of like Gotham City cityscape is all shot in IMAX, and then I don't exactly remember if the entire robbery sequence is shot in IMAX, but it might be. I don't know. Spoiler alert for Dark Knight, a fucking 12-year-old movie. And then, like, obviously, I think when they flip the semi truck, I think that's IMAX too, because obviously that's a scene worth, the extra, view. But like with this movie, and maybe it's because the movie's tense the whole way through, and it doesn't really let go of that tension, that maybe that's why like it feels random to me and not as like calculated as I know it probably really is, because Christopher Nolan's that good of a director. But I don't know. It's interesting to me, the usage of IMAX in this movie.
I gotta go back and try to see if I notice anything, and then come back around to that. But a quick game.
Real quick before we do it, can I stop recording and save and then restart recording my audio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Landon, you're probably not in here anymore, but that's totally fine. Hopefully the next time we do a movie that you have seen. All right. Okay. Here's the game. Name one character from the movie who's not the French soldier. Because he's literally just French soldier.
Frenchie. Or Toad, as I think Harry Styles calls him. Or something like that, right? It's like some derogatory ass shit. Georgie.
Let's see.
Right? Isn't that the kid
that died?
Dies? Yeah.
I'll give it to you. It's George.
Okay.
All right, that's a point. Now name a soldier.
Fuck. Can we do last names?
Sure.
Oh, fuck. What? Shit. I swear to God, I thought I knew Tom Hardy's character's name, but now the more I think about it, the more I don't. No. Now I'm trying to think of the fucking uniform that Frenchie was wearing. What was the dead soldier's name?
The dead guy?
Yeah, the dead guy. Because there's a point in the movie where they look at his name tags like, who's fucking so-and-so, because you're obviously not him. I don't know. I don't know any of the soldiers' names.
Yeah, I fucking couldn't do it either. I just thought it's funny because I was like, I wonder if you somehow know someone's character name. So Tom,
they definitely say some names.
They do.
Yeah.
So Tom Hardy's character was Farrier.
That's right.
And then his partner was Collins.
Good old Collins.
Now, I don't think they've actually ever said Harry Styles' character name, but would you like to take a guess as to what it is?
Zane. No, what is
Alex.
it? Of course. No, yeah, yeah. Some of the videos I've seen, yeah, they refer to him as Alex.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it'd be funny because it's like, yeah, I literally don't know anyone's fucking name.
Yeah.
I probably couldn't even get Georgie or George, but
George.
yeah, fucking movie. Let's see. Is there any?
Did they ever say Cillian Murphy's name?
Let me check. I wonder, like,
That fucking asshole.
I wonder, like, why they even went through the trouble of naming these characters. No. Okay. He doesn't have a name, but guess what he's referred to as, according to IMDb?
Shell shock soldier.
Close. It's lamer than that.
Lamer than
It is
shell-shock?
really fucking lame. Like, imagine,
Pete.
imagine. Let me set the scene. Imagine you're Cillian Murphy, right? Great actor.
Yeah.
Christopher
Yeah.
Nolan wants you in a movie. You get a call. Hey, Cillian, this is Christopher Nolan. I have a role for you in this movie. It's
PTS soldier.
no, it's lamer than that.
Stranded soldier.
Closer, but it might be
Ship-
lamer than that.
Shipwreck soldier? Is soldier?
It
in the
is.
name?
Soldier is in the name, and the first word does start with an S.
Let's see. Oh, I got it. Sexy soldier.
No, it is unfortunately not that. Even though I think that is an apt name.
Accurate.
Yeah.
What is it?
Shivering soldier.
Oh, why? You know what makes it funnier is that you were like shell shocked. That's close.
Close. But imagine Christopher Nolan goes, "Hey, man, I'm gonna offer you the role of Shivering Soldier."
Yeah, I'm gonna offer you the role of shaky soldier.
Oh man. I mean, is Shivering Soldier better than Rear Admiral?
Rear admiral. Yo.
Rear Admiral, baby.
That's great. I aspire to be a rear admiral someday.
Some nights I'm a Rear Admiral.
Some nights I'm a rear admiral. Other nights I'm a rear private. Catch my drift.
Most nights I'm a Shivering Soldier.
Is that the guy who plays rear admiral? Is that the guy that looks kind of like a younger Rowan
No,
Atkinson?
he's an old guy. Matthew Marsh. I actually
Sounds like an old name.
don't fucking recognize him, but he this is your Rear Admiral. I couldn't fucking tell you who he was in the movie. Yeah.
No. You know, maybe it's because he wasn't in the front; he was in the rear.
Oh man, is there anything else you want to add to this discussion? By the way, there is a character just called Private. There's also a character just called Boy. Let me see. Harry Richardson. He must have just been like some random dude on screen because he doesn't look recognizable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I think we've basically covered all of our bases on this one. Like, you know, this movie is, I mean, timeline stuff aside, this movie is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think there's anything to really untackle with like any hidden messaging or like whatever that it's trying to say.
As is the case with most Christopher Nolan movies, we kind of touched on last episode, which, by the way, I didn't realize we did over a month ago.
Yeah, I'm actually, now that you mention it, I am kind of disappointed with the lack of magic in this movie. Like, I really do think there should have been more magic.
No one fucking caught a
going
bullet
on.
with their hand. They all caught it with their bodies. That's
No, with their
fucking lame.
bodies or their-
Anyone can do that. I could do that. Watch, I'll show you.
Yeah, that's easy. And like people drowned, but they weren't in a fucking tank trying to untie themselves.
Yeah,
you know?
that was. Come on, they didn't give the nod for a different nod either.
Oh, okay. I do have something.
Okay.
Well, okay. We kind of covered this with like most horrific event, but like, who do you think had the worst death?
Probably the dude who fucking got burnt coming up for air, right?
That's pretty bad.
That's
yeah.
a pretty horrific way to go.
Okay, so maybe death wasn't the right word, but the guy that Frenchie was burying, I think, had it really rough because not only did he die naked, but they didn't even bury him all the way. If you notice, when they get up and leave,
Yeah.
his foot is still hanging out of the ground.
Do you think Frenchie killed him? Or was he already dead?
No, I think he was already dead because Frenchie is a good boy. He's a good guy. I really like him. Saved our asshole, other main characters twice. Again, want to emphasize that twice.
True.
And yeah, like, here's the thing. Here's what I do think Frenchie did. I think Frenchie fucking found him dead, dragged his body over to a secluded area, stripped him naked.
He most definitely did that.
And then haphazardly buried him, I think is what Frenchie did. Which, look, not the most best of things to do to somebody after they've passed away, but, you got to do what you got to do.
I mean, going back to their job of burying the guy, an attempt was made.
Look, an attempt was made, but keep this in mind, right? That he was burying somebody, not necessarily the hardest thing in the world to do, right?
You know that
Like,
from
you
experience?
no, but like, maybe. But like, look, he was doing such a poor job of taking dirt and moving it over somebody to here that some guy stopped mid-shit to help him out. You think about that, right?
The only person doing a shit job is you, sir. Let me help you out.
Yeah, and like, so, yeah, I think he could have done
Okay,
better.
just going back real quick to the beginning. What do you think the purpose of him having to take a shit so bad was? Like, why throw that in there? What's the meaning behind that?
I really do feel like Christopher Nolan's such a sicko that it was really just like a means to like give the audience like a sense of no relief whatsoever. Like, this is the beginning of this movie. The beginning of this movie, it starts out very quiet, but once that first bullet hits, like, it's on and you're not going to stop. And you saw him about to take a shit, right? And now you're thinking, okay, he's going to take a shit now. We have a moment to breathe. No, none of that. Okay, he's gonna stop. He's not gonna take that shit. He's gonna go help bury some dude haphazardly, and then from there it's ongoing.
We fucking decipher Dunkirk. It was a metaphor for how Christopher Nolan wanted you to feel. That anxiety of having to shit and not having a safe place to shit. That's Dunkirk.
To this day, some people say that he hasn't taken that shit yet. That's what I hear. It's based on a true story.
Assuming he did not shit at the beginning, right? He never finished when he found Frenchie. At what point do you think he did shit himself?
So it happened when they get to the first boat, right? And they have to climb the ropes. It happened
just as he was climbing the rope.
Point, wait. At that point, everything's cool. You think you're safe, and then boom, what do you hear? Some guy yelling because he fucking breaks his ankle because people are so fucking, like, for whatever reason, really need to push and shove to get on this rope when I'm pretty sure there's going to be room for everybody to get on this goddamn boat. And it just comes out of nowhere. This guy just screams bloody murder because his fucking ankle gets twisted to all hell. And yeah, I'd probably shit myself too. You know, because here I am in this position, right? Ass out. I'm at my most vulnerable, climbing this rope, trying not to twist my ankle.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I hear some dude yelling bloody murder. I'm like, fuck. You know, and it just comes out. Because at that point, if you're climbing a rope, you're already in the squat position, you know, and they say it's more ergonomically correct for you to shit that way. So it's easier. It comes out more easily. So I think if there was an opportune moment for him to shit his pants throughout that movie, it'd be that moment.
Wow.
Or second answer, when they're swimming back to Dunkirk after having survived said boat sinking, because everybody goes in the ocean and it's a big ocean, bro. No one's gonna notice.
Can you imagine?
Right? That's what everybody says.
Can you imagine taking or like shitting yourself while swimming? Like, how weird must that be? Like, that's
just like you better just hope it's not diarrhea, right?
It might be better if it's diarrhea, because then at least it kind of washes away with the water. You're gonna have a fucking log floating around in your like soaked. Like, that must be awful. Like, come on.
No, yeah, oh man, that's pretty bad.
Yeah,
and like
it's pretty shitty.
Also, God bless the guy at the beginning of the movie when the first airplane strike is happening.
Oh my God.
And like you see the bomb slowly.
That was
towards
a sick ass scene, by the way.
That was tense, right? God bless the guy that's just laying on his back shooting, fucking trying to like that's gonna.
He ain't gonna go out like a bitch.
No, but he does, right? Like. His shit gets blown up, and you don't even see any body. It's just sand, right? There's just nothing left of him.
Right.
He's
I mean, you might as well go down fighting.
And also, is it me, or is this the straightest bomb drop I've ever seen in my life? Where it's just in a straight line, boom, boom, boom. Motherfucker, move. Stop trying to fucking quick scope this guy and get your ass out of the line.
No one fucking ran. Everyone just kind of accepted it. They're just kind of like,
they just
all right.
Bro.
They were like we said, man. These Brits can fucking queue. They ain't gonna break queue for shit.
Not at all. I will say this though. Speaking of that beginning part of the movie, how great is that scene where they see the wounded soldier and they both kind of have that moment of realization to like pick him up and take him there. And that scene of them taking him to the front of the line is so well done and so good. Especially my favorite part is when they're on the
fucking dock blows up.
Wafting through the well, not that part, but that's good too. When they're walking through the soldiers and it switches to a camera angle that's on the actual stretcher.
Oh yeah.
Looking up at them carrying it. Such a good shot. Such good camera work. Like that is
I mean, fuck it. I guess we're going deeper, but yeah, the cinematography in this movie was fucking dope. Like the shot. Even though we hate that sequence of events with Tom Hardy's character, the shot at the end when he's burning his plane was just
really good.
So good. Just amazing.
And then the one time in this movie we see Nazis, they run up on him. The gun of his.
Wait, hold on. You cut out. What was that first part?
I was like, the one time we see Nazis in this movie is like when we see them pull up on him and press him, and they're all like, "What hood you at? What hood you from?
You're in the wrong hood.
Where you stay? Where your grandma stay? Where your grandma stay? Where your mama stay? Where your brothers? Like, where you at?"
But yes, Dunkirk. Overall, awesome movie. If you had to grade it on a scale from 1 to 10, let's just go IMDb 1 to 10. Where do you rank this as?
Did we do that for Prestige?
We did not, but we can retroactively do it now.
Okay. So for Dunkirk, shit. I'd probably put Dunkirk at like.
So let's just establish.
Is there a decimal
sure.
system?
Yeah, there is. So let's just say 5 is a mediocre movie, right? Just no feelings one way or the other.
Not average.
Well, average being like I don't necessarily love it, but I don't necessarily hate it. It's like middle ground.
Okay. Yeah. Shit, I really like this movie, man. I'd honestly probably give this like an 8.
Okay.
And then I'd probably give The Prestige like an 8.5. I think I like The Prestige just a little bit more, just because
From
I'm a sucker for magic, I guess. I don't know.
Wizards. Uh,
Wizard Royale.
okay. I'd give Dunkirk. Upon my first viewing, right? I haven't rewatched it. So upon my first viewing, I'd probably give it about like a 7.5. Just because I really like war movies kind of set in this way. I think it's a refreshing take on all this stuff, and it kind of gives you more of reality in war. The Prestige, I'll give an 8 because I feel like that's a really fun movie to show someone if they haven't seen it. You know what I mean? There's just you can watch it over and over again, and then show it to someone, and then just like I don't know, it's just I fucking love it. So yeah, I mean we're about the same.
Yeah.
So
Like we both agree that Prestige is a more fun.
oh
movie.
yeah, absolutely. But Dunkirk was also great. I could see myself putting this on if I just need to watch something, even though it's so fucking stressful. Because I need to rewatch it and see if there's things I didn't pick up on. So
I will say this, like, this definitely is like a Christopher Nolan that is a lot less layered than other Christopher Nolan movies. Like, there really is it. Like, once you kind of get past like the timeline stuff, other than that, there's really not much else to this movie in terms of like the Christopher Nolan touch.
yeah, the twist was the timelines or whatever. That was the big.
This is the timeline,
Yeah.
which, compared to other Christopher Nolan movie like twists and stuff like that, it's not like the most out there.
Yeah, it's pretty grounded. But
Yeah, like you didn't learn that Ra's al Ghul was actually alive this whole time or anything, and that he was actually
not the Asian dude.
Qui-Gon Jinn. Yeah.
All right, so that was our episode on Dunkirk. We didn't intend to do a Christopher Nolan theme. That's just kind of how it's turning out. Maybe the next movie will be different. Like I said, we might do Cloverfield. If you haven't seen Cloverfield, and if you didn't see it in 2018, or was it 20? No, when was it? Oh wait, 2008. If you didn't see
2000,
if you didn't see it in 2008, what the fuck was wrong with you? God damn.
If you want to do like a Christmas theme one, I don't really care for a lot of Christmas movies, but I would like to recommend A Muppet's Christmas Carol.
Sorry, hold on. You cut out. What was that?
I said I don't really do a lot of Christmas movies, but I would like to recommend A Muppet's Christmas Carol.
100%. I was actually thinking about doing a few Christmas episodes if you're down.
Well, I've only ever really seen A Muppet's Christmas Carol, so it's gonna have to be one of them.
Okay, just off top, there's Jingle All the Way, Elf,
No,
obviously.
haven't seen it. I mean, I've seen Elf.
Yeah. Oh, you haven't seen Jingle All the Way?
I haven't seen
Dude.
Jingle All the Way. No.
Okay, I think Netflix still has it. Watch Jingle All the Way. We'll do an episode on Jingle All the Way.
I could do 8 Crazy Nights. I've seen that.
Oh yeah, that's good. I haven't seen that since you first showed me it years ago. So
Yeah.
reach the Jewish audience. Yeah, we'll do an episode on that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Pandering.
Yeah.
You gotta find a Kwanzaa movie next.
Anyways, that was that was our show. Thanks to everyone who came by. Thanks to everyone who lurked and gave us some views. That's really cool too.
And if you haven't seen this movie and we spoiled everything for you, you should still watch it anyway
Yeah.
because it's really good.
Yeah. We do archive these, so these will be up on a YouTube channel that I have, which I will link at some point. I actually haven't linked it yet, but it'll be in there, and then you could rewatch this, and then hopefully you guys join in on the next one. I'm gonna roll our cool little intro, which will be better next time as well. And yeah, thanks for joining us, everyone. Peace.
Yo, DK. Dunkirk.